Welcome everyone to a new show segment. Always doing something new here at Tricycle Creative and on Tripod. This is something I'm super excited about. I would hate to be doing something I'm not excited about. So this is one that I definitely am. Calling these Unicycle Sessions because I thought what we could do is short one topic recordings with guests who I like, or maybe we'll get to a place where I have guests I hate. But for this show, it's definitely a guest that I like very much. Kayla Naab. Kayla, say hello.
Hello.
Hello to
It's
you.
good to be here.
Yeah. I also, in the interest of doing these a little bit down and dirty and quick, one topic, just talking about things that, are either topical or interesting, or some things that we just kick around a lot. I have not done any proper work to give you an introduction. So, aside from working with Tricycle and partnering with us on various branding and content projects, I would like to kind of give you the floor to give yourself a proper professional introduction.
Sure. I'm Kayla. I run Kayla Naab Digital, which is a branding and content consultancy, but I'm also an affiliate with Tricycle. Um, and yeah, I've spent the last 10 or 11 years getting really excited about brands, about especially brand messaging and copy, and sort of the way that we talk about, products and brands and companies online.
Do you have a favorite brand right now? Is there someone like something that you really like right now?
It's not anything super trendy right now. I'm always crushing on Slack, Asana. I like companies that are super digital, that are trying to fix broken systems. I get excited about that. And I also like when they're kind of conversational and tongue in cheek.
I used
So I
to
tend
really
to pick,
I used to really love Mailchimp.
oh
Not so
yeah.
much anymore.
Yeah, they've changed a
Sorry.
lot over the years.
Fell out of love. Sorry,
Yep.
Mailchimp.
If you're listening.
If you're listening, they're tuned in.
Absolutely.
They are always tuned in to Tripod,
Yeah.
the digital marketing podcast by Tricycle Creative. So this is a unicycle session. We're going to talk about one subject and one subject only. We're going to get in. We're going to talk about this, and then we're going to get out. Okay. So as opposed to our normal tripod episodes, which are three topics, marketing, media, miscellaneous. This is going to be one topic of who knows, whatever. Well, we know, and that one topic is. So you sent me over this list of things because we've been kicking this around, and I was like, okay, yeah, send me over some list of ideas. And you sent me over what you called kind of a sloppy list that I think you had said you were ashamed of. And it's like you dropped it through like in the mailbox and then lurked or like just slunk away because you're like, here it is. I don't know, whatever. And one of them caught my attention, and that is authenticity. Because
Yeah.
I've talked a lot about this on my podcast. I preach authenticity, and what you put in this email crushed me to the point where I was like, okay, I'd like to talk about this, but before we do, can you tell me a little bit so I don't look like a complete fool on my own show? So I would like to hear, and this is what I want to talk about on this very first unicycle session: authenticity as a guideline for companies. And I'm just going to pass the baton to you, and I think just let you do a little bit of a rant on it.
Sure. Well, I think the particular line that you're reacting to is the one where I said, be authentic is actually really terrible advice. Um, and I know because you responded and said, oh, well, that's advice I give a lot of people. So that's great. Come on my podcast. So,
And make
um,
you look like an idiot. I think that's
yeah,
right.
and refute me directly. But what I meant was, being authentic is great advice. I think be authentic, though, leaves a lot of room for how. Who am I? How do I know who I am? How do I know how I'm supposed to articulate myself, or if I'm on behalf of a team, a whole brand online? I don't think my authentic self is professional or is impressive or all these other things we feel like we need to be. So I think be authentic needs to start with who the hell are you? And so there's this kind of entire phase of branding and of even kind of identity, reflection and identification before you can really tell someone to be authentic to it.
Is be authentic, you think, the evolution of what used to be conversational? Because
Yeah.
they meant like in the heyday of social, that's what it was. I mean, not to, I guess, to say it's not that way anymore, but I think that was the phrase that was being kicked around.
Well, I think it's an iteration of that. Be conversational then became all these companies, getting into your email inbox or onto your social feed and uh, kind of swearing at you or being very kind of overly casual. So two problems happened. I think one problem is none of that was actually authentic to all of these companies. So conversational didn't end up being authentic for everyone. And I think secondary was an invitation to be just a little bit too comfortable for some companies and some industries as well.
I've also thought about this and I was like, okay, what is the like authenticity versus or in play with honesty? And how do those two things play off of each other? Or because I was thinking, I was like, authenticity, I think, is hard to scale,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Whereas honesty may not be as hard to scale. I don't know. Like, what do you think about that? Like, are they, I don't think they're worlds apart, but I do think they're different enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the advice to be honest or to be transparent harkens a sort of like, don't try to pull the wool over the eyes of your customers. Instead, tell them what to expect. Critique the parts of your industry that might be negative, toxic, or problematic. That kind of thing is being honest. And I think that is more scalable, but I think it also comes with a bit of a risk. There are companies that can be authentic in terms of their tone and the way that they engage with customers, but they don't feel like they can be transparent. They don't feel like they have the space or authority to critique their industry or even their consumers themselves. I tend to be kind of refreshed and excited by brands that say, hey, customer, we're not pandering to you. We want to help you, but we also realize that to do that, you need to understand where you're falling short. I love
Well, like,
brands that can do that kind of not just authentically, but with a curated sense of content, like, and maybe that is the ultimate honesty, but is that authentic?
exactly. Well, exactly. I think the part of that is like,
Yeah.
getting back to, are you being transparent and are you being honest? I think there's a Venn diagram type scenario there
Yep.
where there's an
Yep.
overlap, but you can be one or the other. They can be mutually exclusive, like or you can even struggle with, what if by being authentic, what if the authentic you is not an honest person? Right.
Right.
Then,
Absolutely. Well, and in the inverse, what if in order to be authentic, you have to be a little bit facetious? What if in order to be honest and kind of, and I hate this phrase, but disrupt your industry, that might not be authentic for
that
you.
phrase hasn't been used before. Is that new? Is that a new
Yeah, I made that up
saying?
just now.
I've never. Oh my God, I'm gonna write that down. Hold on.
Yeah,
Disrupt. I've
I
never
hate
heard
it so
that.
much. I know.
People, in South by Southwest town here in Austin, they don't ever use that. I don't know if they know about that. I should probably like float it out there as a
Yeah.
word they could
Yeah.
use this year at
Should
South by
trademark
Southwest.
that right
I
now.
should probably do a panel discussion on
Do it.
disruption. Just
Yeah.
just to do that. Okay, I'm gonna write these are great notes down. Great for the
Yeah.
first unicycle session right out of the gate. I think
That's what I'm here for.
well, I think there's another piece of this too, and I don't know how it plays in, but there was several periods of my professional life where I'm not gonna like after a day of work, I felt like I felt like I was acting.
Yeah.
So weird, but I came home and I felt so exhausted because I felt like all day long I was. You felt like I wasn't who I was. I was the work person.
Yeah.
And I know that everyone has those elements. Like we can't be. Well, I think it's challenging and probably not appropriate, not necessarily in a bad way, but I don't think we can be the same person in every role all the time. I couldn't, well, in the flip side of that, I couldn't be the founder CEO, that person that I am in business, in my household. My wife
Right.
would murder me. I would be dead. Like I would
Right.
be a dead person, you know? And we always joke about that, but it's just like we couldn't work with each other.
No,
Because I can be a monster, you know?
that's a
And
lie. But
it's
no, but it's true. We do play roles. I think you're going to be a different person on a first date than you're going to be once you've been married with, to someone for years and years. I think you're a different friend when you first meet someone than you are once you've known them for a decade. It's all of those things. I think that where that plays in is this idea that, you know, we understand a company is one thing. We don't really let companies apologize, evolve, do that kind of thing because we see them as static. And that's distanced from the humans that we want to be connecting to. One way that I think brands can establish that kind of authenticity is pulling back the curtain and saying, these are our leaders. And Jessica's one way, and Michael's another way. And they're all part of the ethos that puts this kind of company together. That's one way to kind of do it. I think alternately to that, you kind of run into, you know, who are we as a brand, personifying that brand, and then forcing all of your social media people and your marketers to use that persona. But they're not all equally comfortable with that. They're not all equally great at that. So that's another branding challenge that you can run into is, how do we actually document and articulate this brand persona and make sure everyone sticks to it?
You'd mentioned the evolution too, right? And I
Yeah.
think I think that is something that I don't know. I feel like more businesses need to hear and know that it's actually o- okay for that to happen. I mean, I bring this up even with Tricycle Creative. Going
Yeah.
even back, starting this a year and a half ago, we're different because it's been our first year and a half, 2 years of business. And those are that's definitely the time period where you're going to have, the first, I would even say first 5 years, but
Right.
definitely the first three and definitely your first one. You're going to have these ebbs and flows and changes, and you're going to find that what who you thought you were or what you thought you did or what you thought you liked to do, that stuff changes,
Yep.
you know? And I think the more people need to hear that that's okay. And maybe that's even part of understanding and working with a good brand consultant of how that journey happens.
Yeah, and I think that that's something I run into with clients. We've run into it with clients together that there's either a rigidity that takes place where someone's afraid to change, afraid to concede to the change that's happening around them in their industry or with the technology, the customers they're serving, whatever it might be. And then you have people who are just chasing every sparkly star in the sky.
Yeah.
And so you need those people to get an identity and then try to stick to it a little bit. So, when it comes to the evolution of that identity, I think there are businesses and individuals who are like, oh, well, then I'm not being authentic anymore because I'm changing. So how do you identify a point of change versus a point of I'm following this trend or I'm losing my identity? And that can be really a challenging kind of thing to identify and solve for.
And I think that's the strange thing too. It's like if again, wrapping this all up back into authenticity,
Yeah.
if the change is authentic, if it's true, like if it's really what's happening with your business and who you are, then why fight against that?
Right.
Like
Absolutely.
like it doesn't make any sense. You
Well, and
know?
that's exactly why I pitched the topic is, when you tell someone to be authentic, well, then you're not pulling together all the nuance of, is this me now? Is this who I'm supposed to be? Is this who customers want me to be? Here's another example. What if your authentic self isn't what your ideal consumer wants? How do you reconcile that? Do you change the ideal consumer? Do you change your product or do you change yourself?
Yeah. I'm incredibly charming, so I don't know how that works. But I've heard from people that could be. I'm just kidding. That's not authentically. I am not that arrogant at all. So I still struggle even with being I think someone whose company more closely reflects my personality and my ethos and the things that I believe in.
Right.
I think anyone still struggles with, the confidence piece.
Yep.
And so I think, this is something where, uh, you know, what do you think is the best piece or pieces of advice for a new entrepreneur, a new bit or a business owner who's looking to have a brand, not have a business, but have a brand? What are there some starter or universal tips that you give them or you would give them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first kind of starting point for that is, what do you want? And that's
Mhm.
already a
Yeah.
very challenging question. But I would posit that with, what do you want to achieve? If you want to be a speaker, for example, and have this keynote experience and be somewhat famed in that area, you kind of need your personal brand to always be the speaker version of you. If you want to be an author, then you need to kind of put forth whatever you want to write about as your chief kind of, not only personality, but core competency as well. So aligning it to goals is important. I think if you don't know what your goals are, then that's a great place to start. Um,
Exactly. Yep.
because it comes back to that conversation of, we are different people in different roles. So of course that idea of be authentic and be yourself when you come out and sort of purvey this personal brand is the right advice, and it's good advice, but it's not enough.
Hmm.
So then I would help them dig into, what do you want to achieve? How can you be the person who achieves that in all of your dealings with your consumers, but also on the other end, who's your ideal audience? Um, you know, if you're trying to appeal to people who bring on keynote speakers and who plan events, then those are the people you need to be talking to, not just when you're speaking, but all the time with your content, as opposed to the average person or to your peers. As much as you can have those conversations, they're not the ones that might put your goal forward in the same way.
Well, I authentically want to be as awesome and knowledgeable when it comes to branding as you are. I know that, we definitely have worked on projects together. We'll work on many projects together in the future. But your insight has certainly even helped me with Tricycle Creative and definitely help with some of the clients and projects that we've brought on. So with that, I want to bring the first unicycle session to an end, but not before I have you throw out your webs, social handles, whatever it is you want to promote. Throw it on out there, Kayla.
Okay, cool. Well, if you do find that you need some branding services, some copy support, or you just like me and want to be friends, I like friends too. KaylaNaab.com. Naab is Naab. KaylaNaab.com. You can come and check things out there. You'll see all my socials in the bottom. Find me on LinkedIn. That's where I like to spend my time because I'm very B2B.
You're a LinkedIn like killer.
Yeah,
Like
we might
just
want to do a session on LinkedIn.
Yeah, we're
I
gonna add
love
that to the
LinkedIn.
list. Me too.
Cool, cool,
It's my
cool.
new favorite. It
Yeah,
really is.
it's
Like,
awesome.
and weirdly enough, here's my new my order. LinkedIn, Twitter is creeping up
Twitter
there.
is creeping up there. Twitter's coming back and
Well,
Instagram is going away.
I'm if you like Twitter now, I'm giving myself credit because you just got like back on it, and then
I
you
did.
started following me. So clearly that had everything to do with it because I tweet about. I went through my timeline when you did that when you followed me, and then you're like, "Oh, I should clean up my timeline." I was like, "What is she talking about?" And I didn't. This is being truthful. I didn't even look at yours when you said that. Usually that's like, oh, let me beeline for it. No, I looked at mine because I was like, oh no, what's she gonna see? And I was like, I tweet about sports, Oak Island, and then the occasional social media digital marketing thing. And I was like, and it's like Star Wars. And I
Yeah.
literally, when I went through my timeline, I was like, these are just the things that I'm talking about. This is
Yay.
like, I need to
That's
almost warn
authenticity.
her. I suppose. I don't
It's
know. It's
authenticity.
more so about laziness.
Yeah.
Um, and anything else? Anything else we need to know? I recommend following you on LinkedIn. Do spelling of your whole name again, just so people
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it's Kayla. It's Kayla, and then Naab is Naab. Most people say Nab. I don't bite. I won't yell at you about that. But yeah, KaylaNaab.com. Come and hang out. Follow me on all the socials, and more importantly, follow Tricycle.
Oh, thank you. And we are Hello Tricycle all over the webs. And if this is your first time tuning in to Tripod, the Tricycle Creative Marketing Podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. And we will see you next time on Tripod.